Thank you so much, everybody, for taking a few minutes out of your day. We're all busy. We're all kind of maxed out, I think, from the news. We have been for a while. So thanks so much for taking a minute to sit with us and chat with us. I'm really grateful to be having this conversation. My name is Stacey Lindsay. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stacey Lindsay. I'm a journalist. I'm a senior reporter and senior editor here at the Sunday paper. And I'm here to talk about the news of the day, the news of the week so far, and that is, as we know, the court's conservative majority has privately voted to overturn Roe versus Wade. And we know that Roe v. Wade is a landmark 1973 decision that protects a woman's right to have an abortion. We learned about this through documents obtained by Politico, and it's leaving a lot of us just reeling, asking, with many, many questions. What does this mean? Where does this lead us? What's next? So to talk about that, I'm going to be asking those questions on behalf of the Sunday paper community today of Abby Johnston and Shefali Luthra. Abby Johnston is the editorial director of the 19th, and Shefali Luthra is the health reporter of the 19th. And if you don't know of the 19th, please go and follow them immediately after this conversation. The 19th is a nonprofit independent newsroom, and they report at the intersection of gender, policy, and politics. And I have to say, they're doing some of the best journalism and reporting out there today. As I said, they're covering gender, policy, politics, and a lot of the stories that mainstream media actually isn't covering these days. And that is of women's rights, of trans people's rights, and suffrage, so many things that we really need to be talking about. So let's see if I can get Abby and Shefali on.
Hello, happy to be here.
So happy to have you. Time is finite, so thanks for giving me some of yours right now. I appreciate it so much on behalf of the Sunday paper community. Maria, thanks you. This is some really grave news that we really need to talk about, so thanks for unpacking with us today.
Absolutely.
Before we dive in, I actually just want to check in with you both. You cover weighty topics. You cover very grave topics at the time. This is a particularly grave one, I'm going to say. How are you both doing?
It's been a long week. Apparently it's Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that it's a lot of fatigue. It's important work. The reporting that Shefali is doing is absolutely critical, and that the rest of the team is also doing. So we're tired, but we know there's a lot of important stories to tell.
Well, let's jump in with what we know right now. Of course, the court's conservative has privately voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Of course, this is a draft. This is not a law, but this could have some serious consequences. What do we know? Walk us through what you know right now.
This is what many of us who watched oral arguments expected to happen. I don't think anybody expected the decision to be leaked early, but it seemed very clear that the votes were there to substantially or completely overturn Roe v. Wade. And what that means is, right, at some point before the court's term ends, which, could be this month, could be next month, they will issue a decision that gives states the power to ban abortion entirely if they choose, or to severely restrict it. We have about a dozen states, 13 to be precise, that have what are called trigger laws, where they would ban abortion, if not immediately, then very soon after this decision comes down. There are 5 more states with bans on the book that predate Roe that we don't know, but very possibly could take effect as well, and ban abortion there. And what that means is 18 states could ban abortion soon after Roe is overturned, and more are likely to follow. And that's not to say nothing of those with 6-week bans or 15-week bans on the books that would also restrict access.
So you touched upon something that I think is important, which we didn't expect this to be early, but you weren't. This has been attempted before to overturn Roe v. Wade. Do you feel that this particular time has, I guess, extra legs? Are you really extra nervous about this now? It's more of a cause of a concern today than it has been in the past, perhaps?
I think that what we seen is that it's more so that states are really prepared for this moment. That conservative-led states were anticipating a Roe and passing a ton of abortion restrictions, and so it's more that the lack of access in those states is going to be way more acute. It's going to be felt in huge ways. We've already seen that start to play out in Texas. For the past 8 months, there haven't been really very little abortion access here. I'm based in Johnston, and so I think that that's really what it is that since Roe is falling and we've seen all of these states gearing up restrictions in anticipation of that Supreme Court decision, it's why we're going to be feeling the effects and seeing them play out in perhaps a bigger way than we would have 5 or 10 years ago.
What can people do state by state? What can people do right now to get out there, to start maybe voicing their opinions, to fighting this? Is there things that we can be doing right now on an individual level, communal level?
This is complicated, right? Because in individual states, the laws are different, and the level of abortion access is different. The presence of groups like abortion funds, right, which help people pay for abortions or sometimes pay for travel, that varies from state to state. But for folks who are interested in this area, that's where I look for reporting to learn about what's happening. Is I talk to clinics, I talk to funds, and if I were trying to get involved, I would look at those areas. For those in red states versus blue states, and for those in purple states, it gets even more complicated, right? We are going to see so much legislation. We are going to see legal battles. We are going to see states voting on constitutional amendments to affect whether their state protects abortion access. If this is an issue that's of interest to you, those are areas to look, right? To talk about voting, to talk about getting involved with how your state makes laws, and to think about, do I want my state to be passing more abortion restrictions? Do I want my state to be passing protections or putting programs in place to help people travel here, for instance, for care? Those are going to be some of the big questions of the coming years, and room for people to really make their voices heard.
I think at the 19th, one of the things that is part and central to our mission is that we want to inform people and give them access to make their own decisions at the ballot box. That's something that we believe in. So, not to toot our own horns here, but places like the 19th to understand what's happening and what you think about what's happening and how you want to vote and exercise access to the franchise.
No, Abby, I'm really glad because I want to get back to that for saying that. Shefali, I want to ask you about, you've been a longtime health reporter. Obviously, that's your beat here at the 19th. You were covering health too before at Kaiser. This would be potentially a health disaster. And I want to ask you, what are the health implications? If we're looking, because abortions are going to, whether it's illegal or not, abortions will still happen. So will you walk us through?
Yes, and I want to be really cautious in how I talk about this, because folks who are in this movement are really clear that we do not live in the world we lived in before 1973, right? In particular, there are medication abortion pills, right, which one can take very safely at home without medical supervision. And advocates are really pushing for knowledge about these pills and avenues for access to become more widespread. But we also know that that isn't always legal, and that can lead to prosecution in some places. We also know that people may not know about these or have the connections to get these pills. I was just talking to a doctor before this. I've been talking to a lot of doctors this week. And what they are very clear on is that people are going to suffer. People will carry unwanted pregnancies to term. People will be trapped in poverty. And people who try and induce abortion on their own, some will succeed and be safe, and some will die. And there isn't really any way to sugarcoat that.
Is there a particular concern for
Yes.
marginalized communities?
That is the number one concern. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because what life was like before Roe, right, is that those who had the means could travel, whether it was to New York or to other countries. And what we've seen in Texas, right, has been thousands of people traveling out of state for abortions. And we know that they are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars. I talked to one woman who used the money she had been using to save up for a home to pay for her abortion. And what that means, right, is those who have the resources, they'll be able to get an abortion.
So we're talking about the mother from a marginalized community. Maybe she's already caring for several, or maybe has to, she doesn't have the means. Basically, she's living paycheck. There's a million different ways we can, illustrate this, but it's that mother we have to think about. And again, in marginalized communities, I also want to ask about the other implications. A lot of people are worried have a domino effect in some cases. Okay, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, what does this mean? Or suddenly, is it going to be, or same-sex marriage is going to be eradicated? Are we not going to be able to access birth control? What are some other really causing you both concern right now?
I want to be clear about one thing before we get into that, which is that, like Shefali said earlier, and like you also noted, this is a draft opinion that we have right now. I think that some of the reason that we're seeing a lot of concern around cases like Overturn, which gave us marriage equality, and even which deals with anti-sodomy laws. The reason that we're seeing a lot of that concern is because some of that was referenced in the opinion. This is, again, a draft opinion, though. While we are fairly certain, I don't want to say sure with anything with the Supreme Court, but we are fairly certain that the actual vote will be the same, the decision will be the same. A lot of the wording can change, right? And so we might see it soften. There's a lot of court watchers who have said things like maybe, Justice Alito will get pressure from Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett to soften the language a little bit. And so there's a lot that we don't know. There are things that we're currently reporting about why people are concerned about that. Just because all of those cases deal with right to privacy laws. All of this is interchangeable there. And so, there's a lot that's unknown. And so I do want to make that part of it.
Duly noted. Again, a draft opinion. People currently still can access the care they need. Thank you for clarifying. Willing to talk, though, about, just other things that are causing people concern, because our heads are spinning. Our hearts are pounding. Our heads are spinning right now. And I think it's worth chatting about a little bit, because go down the rabbit hole, and I think it's warranted, though. I mean, this is
one thing that a lot of folks in this movement have been talking about for a long time is sort of what comes after abortion, right? And there is a lot of attention that people have been paying to birth control, whether that is the right to contraception, whether that is access to the morning after pill, right, Plan B. I was talking to Students for Life a couple weeks ago. They are one of the most powerful anti-abortion groups in the country, and they don't support access to Plan B. And so these are questions to consider, right? Once you have a victory like this, and for the anti-abortion movement, this is a huge victory, what comes next? And what do you focus on next? And I think contraception is something a lot of folks will be thinking about a lot.
So to circle back as we wrap up, Abby, and to touch upon something you said a couple of minutes ago, I want to really home in on the work you're doing at the 19th. People can stay informed. The work, I actually want to zoom out a macro question. The work you're doing, you're an independent nonprofit newsroom. That is always been critical. Journalism, truth-based journalism is critical for democracy. And unfortunately, we know that it's become sort of a thin line these days. It's hard to find. And so why is the work you're doing, and I'm going to ask you to toot your own horns. I hope that's okay. But why is it critical today more than anything? For somebody who actually wonders, why is truth-based journalism so critical to democracy? Obviously, you're shedding light on these stories, women-focused stories focused around trans rights, suffrage, policy, politics, all of this. Talk to me about the conviction behind your work right now and why it's so important.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's important for moments like this, right? The thing that we do at the 19th that I think is different than the vast majority of newsrooms, that we center the stories that for so long with us working in other newsrooms, we were told it was too niche, right? It's too niche to write about women. It's too niche to write about just LGBTQ plus people. At the 19th, we center those communities every single day. And that's how you get the kind of reporting that we're doing on abortion right now, on abortion access. Starting from the moment that Texas passed the 6-week ban went into effect there in September, we have been owning this. We've been ramping up for Dobbs' decision. And so, you know, it's moments like this that we can really showcase and inform all of the work that we do every day, because we don't have anyone telling us that this doesn't apply to a large part of the population, which I think all of us at some point have heard in our careers as women, as queer journalists. So I think that the 19th exists because we have to have critical access to be able to inform ourselves and to be able to then take that knowledge and exercise it at the ballot box.
So Abby, Shefali, for everyone watching, for everyone later too, how can we support you? How can we support the 19th's work? How can we support you individually? And how can we find your work?
You can visit us at 19thnews.org. We are free to read always, also free to republish if you're other publishers out there. But of course, we exist because of the generosity of donors. And so to support the 19th, if you like what we do, even our mission, then you are welcome to join our sustaining memberships. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. And you know, also read our work, share our work, tell your friends about our work, especially Shefali's work right now.
Shefali, Luthra, Abby Johnston, again, thank you so much. Some of your time. You need all the time in the world right now, so I'll let you get back to it. But thanks for sharing the Monday paper. We
Thank you.
really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.